Before we dive into an incredible story you might never have heard before, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video like this, especially if you're someone who spent years appreciating the value of history, craftsmanship, and hidden treasure. Today's find could change the way you look at coins forever. Let me take you back to 2009. Turkey is a country rich with history that stretches back thousands of years, from the ancient civilizations that walked its lands to the powerful empires that shaped continents. In 2009, as the world was still recovering from economic turmoil, everyday life continued, with the ordinary and the extraordinary living side by side. And among the ordinary was a small coin that was worth exactly 5 kurus until recently. These coins were treated as pocket change. They were simple. They were common. They were easy to overlook. But what if I told you that among those humble little coins, one specific variation, one single coin struck with an imperfection so rare it confounded collectors for years, could be worth $600,000 today? What if this coin, once dismissed as trivial spare change, became one of the most sought-after modern rarities in numismatics? Now stay with me, because this is a journey through history, chance, human error, and the thrill of discovery. Most of us have handled Kurus coins without a second thought. They jingle in pockets, fall into couch cushions, and sometimes make their way to the bottom of jars that sit untouched for years. For decades, they circulated quietly, used for everyday purchases, and rarely given a second glance. But the story of the 2009 5 Kurus is different. It has intrigue. It has mystery. And it has value that most people would never believe possible. Let's start with the basics. The 5 Kurus coin is part of Turkey's modern currency system. It's a small denomination, one that's most often spent on simple items like a newspaper or a loaf of bread. In 2009, millions of these coins were minted. They were produced to be practical, dependable, and used, not studied under magnification or kept in pristine collections. And that's exactly why the rare one stands out. The world of coin collecting, or numismatics, revolves around rarity, condition, and stories. A coin that's common, even if it's old, usually holds only face value. But when a coin has a unique flaw, one that's traceable and verifiable, it suddenly becomes something collectors chase like treasure hunters searching for gold. This particular 2009 5 Kurus coin slipped through quality control at the mint, but not in a way that's obvious to the untrained eye. These errors are not scratches or wear; those are signs of age and use. We're talking about a mint error, a mistake made at the moment of creation. Something that happened before the coin was ever spent or carried. Years ago, a collector in Turkey was going through a stack of mixed coins that had been stored in an old jar handed down from a relative. Most of them were typical worn edges, faded luster, ordinary. But one caught his eye. Something about the lettering, the way the design sat on the face of the coin, just didn't look right. It was subtle, but to someone trained in spotting anomalies, it was undeniable. He set it aside. Over time, collectors began to notice similar traits in other examples, but not many. Far from it. In fact, only one confirmed example of this variety has ever been authenticated by professional numismatists. That's important. Because in the coin world, rarity is king. This error isn't a surface scratch or a circulation mark. It's a die anomaly, meaning it was caused by an imperfection in the tool used to strike the coin. In some rare cases, the die might shift slightly, or an extra piece of metal from a previous strike might adhere to the surface, creating what's known as a die chip or die clash. These kinds of errors can produce raised areas where they shouldn't be, misaligned lettering, or even partial doubling of the design. In other words, it's a one-of-a-kind signature of the minting process gone awry. What makes this particular 2009 5 Kurus legendary among collectors is the consistency of the error. It's not random wear or damage. It's a consistent, identifiable feature that can be documented, photographed, and compared against known standards. That's the kind of characteristic that makes collectors, especially seasoned ones, sit up and take notice. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where the story gets even more exciting. In the coin world, condition can make or break value. A coin that's been in circulation will inevitably show signs of wear, soft edges, scratches, worn design elements. But this rare 5 Kurus was discovered in what collectors call mint state, meaning it hadn't been circulated. Its original luster was intact. The surfaces were untouched by everyday use. You could tell it had never been in a pocket or cash register. It was like finding a time capsule from 2009. Experienced collectors know that mint state coins command the highest prices. Not just because they're rare, but because they offer a pristine window into the past. They're artifacts that haven't been altered by time. And when you combine rarity with mint condition, you have a recipe for extraordinary value. But there's more. The story of this coin didn't stop with discovery. Once authenticated, it began to circulate not in everyday transactions, but in the international world of numismatics. Collectors from Europe, the United States, and Asia started to hear whispers about the unusual 2009 Kurus. At first, it was just a curiosity. Then it became a legend. Rare coins often make their way into specialized auctions, where serious collectors bid in tense environments, sometimes unseen, sometimes at the front row with paddles raised. When one of these coins goes to auction, especially one with an authenticated error and mint state condition, the bidding can escalate quickly. Collectors know that if something truly rare comes to market, it might be decades before another opportunity, if ever, presents itself. One of the reasons this 2009 Kurus has become so coveted is because coins from modern mints typically aren't considered valuable. Most people assume that because a coin was produced recently, it must be abundant. But that assumption misses the subtleties of coin production. A single flawed die, used for only a limited number of strikes before being replaced, can produce only a handful of error coins. Those coins then enter circulation, indistinguishable at first glance from their ordinary counterparts. Only a trained eye, or a lucky discovery, finds the anomaly. And this brings us to mindset, something many men in the 55 to 65 age group understand deeply. Whether it's restoring classic cars, appreciating fine watches, or spotting rare coins in a jar of change, the value often lies beneath the surface. It takes experience, patience, and a bit of intuition. That's why this story resonates. It's not just about a coin. It's about perspective. It's about seeing what others overlook. Collectors refer to coins like this as trophies. They're not just investments, they're conversation pieces. They represent a moment in time when chance, human craftsmanship, and an unexpected twist intersected perfectly. So what does a coin like this actually mean in terms of value? Based on historical comparisons with other rare modern coin discoveries, professional grading results, and the sustained interest from high-end collectors, this 2009 Kurus error in mint state has been associated with a value of $600,000. Yes, $600,000. Now pause for a moment and think about that. A coin that most people would toss into a jar or forget in their pocket, suddenly worth more than most people's annual income. That's the power of rarity, the allure of history, and the excitement of discovery. And it's not just about money. It's about legacy. For someone in the prime of life, a man who's spent years building memories, treasures, and stories, finding something like this is more than a financial windfall. It's a connection to a moment in time that few will ever experience. It's proof that surprises still exist in a world that often feels mapped and predictable. Even if you never find a coin worth hundreds of thousands, this story teaches an important lesson: pay attention. Look closely. Don't underestimate what's in your hand today, because someone else might see something extraordinary in it tomorrow. I've shared this story not just to inform, but to inspire. To remind you that the world still holds hidden gems. That history is everywhere, even in the smallest, most overlooked things. And that curiosity can lead to discovery in the most unexpected ways. So next time you find yourself sorting through coins, take a second look. You never know, you might be holding something incredible. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this.